Hello, everybody. Welcome. So glad that you could join us tonight. My name is Michael Fortin. I am the QuickBooks instructor that'll be working with you this evening. I have been an adult educator for more than 20 years. I believe, I think QuickBooks has been more than 15 at this point. It's been quite a number of years that I've been teaching the various versions of QuickBooks and have had the opportunity of partnering with SCORE for probably 6 or 7 of those anyway. But I lose track. Time goes by so quickly. But it's great to meet you all. And we're here to do an introduction on QuickBooks Online. SCORE does these sessions, all kinds of different ways that we've done workshops on QuickBooks, and this format we've been trying more recently just to do these quick, like 90-minute sessions to especially for those users who have never had formal training, or those users may be brand new to QuickBooks or have never used QuickBooks. This is ideal because it helps you get started. It gives you some foundation to begin your adventure. It's a great program. It's kind of the standard in business today, whether you're running a business or you're doing bookkeeping for an organization, a nonprofit. Many people are using QuickBooks, and because it's the standard, it's a great one to learn. So I'm going to just go through a couple of real quick housekeeping things. We're basically going straight through 90 minutes. There's no break tonight. And I'll be showing slides on a PowerPoint, as well as encouraging you to follow along with me using the QuickBooks test drive, which I'll explain in a little bit. But you always learn better by, I think, doing and using your hands and getting involved in the learning directly rather than just listening to me talk. So the idea is that this is meant to be interactive. We have a nice healthy group here tonight. There's more than 20 of you, so that's awesome. And we've done some very large groups and some very small groups, but through all of my experience in teaching, the best type of learning environment is one where the students and the instructor are interactive, and we engage, we ask questions, and it really helps the learning process. So um, the rules are, if you have a question, please just simply unmute your microphone and jump right in and ask that question. If your device does not have a microphone, or if you have a little bit of stage fright about talking up, which I would encourage you not to worry about that, and to speak right up, because I think it works best. But if you would rather type it in, and if that's the only option for you, you can use the chat feature on the bottom of your Zoom screen. So I'm sure you're all using different types of devices, tablets and laptops and computers and so forth. We'll hopefully um, enable it so that you can watch the PowerPoint slides and the presentation material that I'll be offering, and then also be able, in another window at the same time, have your web browser open and be able to explore QuickBooks as we work along through the material. And we hope that it's a great evening. I think it will be. So um, with that, let me share my screen for a moment, and my email address is up on the screen, michaelwfortin@gmail.com. So if you have a question about tonight's materials, please reach out. We do have another session that's coming up, I believe next week, if my memory serves, also on a Wednesday night, another 90-minute session, which is meant to be somewhat of an add-on to this one, I guess. There is no prerequisites or anything to joining, and we would welcome anybody to attend any of the sessions. But next week is talks about more specifically about cash flow planning and how QuickBooks can assist with that. So cash flow is, I think it's an area that some of the excuse me, the SCORE mentors see as an opportunity to help people learn what that's all about in meeting with various businesses. So, um, I would encourage you to do that. We do have sessions throughout the year. There's been other formats where we've done a four night format of this workshop, which we dive in more detail. The first night is like an introduction, and then the second night it really focuses on income, and the third night on expenses, and then the last night on a case study project where we actually do a mock business um, exercise bookkeeping with QuickBooks. And those that's been a very successful offering in the past. So if that's something that interests you and you'd really like to see kind of a longer class offered, please let us know that. You can email the SCORE office what you did sign up, and you should have received. I'm not sure actually on the registration side currently how it works, but if you did get a confirmation email with a contact information for SCORE, I would encourage you to use that and email them and let them know. You can also put it in the chat here tonight, and I can make sure they get it that way. But the best sort of feedback is coming from each of you. And because the PowerPoint is going to be shared with everybody who attended tonight, you don't need to take detailed notes of everything I say, but I do encourage note taking because it really does help the learning process. And so please feel free to take notes. If you want me to, explain something or clarify something, again, please speak up and let me know. So the things that we're going to cover tonight, I'll put that slide up for you. These are the learning objectives. We're going to talk about the QuickBooks Online and some comparisons with the different versions of QuickBooks, because there are a few different versions, and they're not identical. They're each very different. We'll be covering how to use Test Drive, because not only in this workshop, but outside of this workshop, you will find, hopefully, that it's a valuable resource where you can play around with QuickBooks with not actually using your real company information. You'll be able to enter transactions and delete customers and add customers and do all kinds of things without it impacting your real work. We'll have an overview of the user interface, and again, I'm coming from the perception that some of you may have never seen QuickBooks before, and oftentimes we get people attend the workshops who have never seen it. But even if you have, and even if you use it and are, an experienced user, hopefully there'll be some value, some little things in here that will still be helpful. And usually that's the case. We'll go through how to navigate the search, new, and the gear menus. We'll use the navigation bar to access sales and expense centers. We will have a demonstration of how to record sales transactions, and then again, how to enter and expense transactions. So those are kind of the key areas to get you up and running with QuickBooks. The normal curriculum, if you were to take a full featured course on QuickBooks Online, would run about 45 hours of instruction. It's a very detailed program. It offers a lot, and at 3 hours a week, that's 15 weeks of material. So we have an hour and a half tonight to cover as much as we can. So there's definitely opportunities to learn more about QuickBooks, and again, encourage you to take advantage of all of the different SCORE offerings that we have. All right. So, okay. And then finally, I see a question in the chat about the recording. So if anyone missed tonight's session or would like to replay it, the recording is available for a short time for those of you who have attended, and you'll get a link to watch that recording. So the slides, and if you want to get a repeat of the material. So let's jump in and talk about QuickBooks. There are three versions of QuickBooks. The QuickBooks Online, which is the focus of tonight's workshop, but also two others, the PC desktop, or what's now referred to as the enterprise version, and then a Mac version. The QuickBooks Online version is a cloud-based accounting system, which, and I guess most people, I think, know what cloud-based means today, but it really means that the QuickBooks application is not installed on your device. It is hosted online. You can access it from any device that has access to the internet, where you can open up a web browser and navigate to the website and sign in. So all of your information for your company is stored in this secure area that belongs only to you as the subscriber. It's a subscription-based service that's paid for on a monthly basis. There are different levels of that subscription. You have the Simple Start, Essentials, Plus, and Advanced. Most users, I think, end up settling somewhere in at the Plus level because the very basic entry-level subscriptions oftentimes do not offer enough functionality for a lot of businesses to operate. So, for example, if you have inventory and or if you need any sort of project billing of any kind, like, you must use the higher versions of QuickBooks because those features are not offered at the lower levels. And it is, of course, suitable for most any type of business, including like nonprofits. I've had many people with nonprofits use the QuickBooks Online system and really enjoy using it. So these are the levels in kind of more details, a lot of detail on this slide, but I'll give you the highlights. And that the Simple Start basically is $30 a month. The Essentials is $55 a month. Plus level is $85 a month, and Advanced is $200 a month. Most people that I work with find that the Plus level at $85 a month is really the level you need for most types of businesses, because you have the ability to track inventory and profitability for project type billing, and some of the real key functions, like, for example, in the cash flow planning that session that we'll offer next week, you have to be a higher level subscription, Plus level or higher, to be able to use cash flow planning, because that feature doesn't exist in the lower ones. All of these prices are, by the way, subject to change, and they could have changed even today, and I didn't capture it on here, but that is the kind of the rough idea of how the pricing breaks down. And if you have payroll, then you add an additional fee for payroll plus for the number of employees that you have. The other factor is that each of these subscriptions have different number of users. So a Simple Start is one user, Essentials is 3, Plus is 5, and so forth. And if you work with a tax preparer and you would like the tax preparer to have access to your company information, then it would make sense to have at least the Essentials level, if not Plus, because it would allow an extra username to be allocated to the preparer. And you can set up permissions for what they have access to as they access your information. So you have full control over the owner. So that's kind of the layout of the different subscriptions. And just this slide is also got tons and tons of detail, which I don't expect you to read. It's very small, but just if you stand back and look at it at a distance, you can see there are 4 columns. with X's in them, and it just gives you this graphical representation of like all of the features that are within QuickBooks naturally are they give you access to more of those features with each level of subscription that you have. So the Simple Start has very few X's, and in comparison, the advanced level in the far right has all the X's in it. I suppose to make you seem like you have more value for the amount of money you're paying each month. You look at all those things you get, but some of them are key, like tracking inventory, for example, for any sort of business that sells products, not just services, but products, inventory might be a key factor in that. And a couple of questions I see in the chat. Yeah, if you are paying a different amount for the plus 99, that could be the prices could have gone up. And then sometimes they offer these little promos, and they kind of like your internet service provider. You get the hook, and then the price goes up. It's just the way it works. But so there might be some variance in what I have on the screen. But you also have a question here. It says, can you have multiple companies for one subscription? And that had something I wanted to say, and I'm glad you reminded me of it. No, you can't. You need to purchase a subscription for each company that you have. Unlike the other versions, which we'll talk about, like desktop, enterprise, and Mac, you can have as many companies as you want, and there's no extra fee for that. We'll get into that. But for all the online subscriptions, the rule is if you have a company, an EIN, every EIN that you have must have a separate QuickBooks subscription. So if you have a multifaceted business where you do, let's say snow removal for part of the year, and lawn care services for the other part of the year, but they're both under the same EIN. They may even have different DBA names, but if they're both under the same EIN, that's fine. One EIN, one subscription. That's kind of the rule of thumb. So I appreciate that question. Let me see. Can you track a lot of codes expiration date of food products with QuickBooks Online? I've never been asked that question before. I will say in general, the inventory tracking in QuickBooks is just kind of so-so. If you want a detailed inventory system with lots of features, QuickBooks does not provide that kind of function. It works pretty well. It's it kind of general and covers most people's needs. But if you like, a lot of people ask about cost accounting in particular, like if I want to be able to calculate the cost of manufacturing items, like tracking all of the individual components in the manufacturing process to then come up with the cost it takes to create like a widget. QuickBooks is not real good at that. And I've had a lot of people use Excel worksheets and other third-party applications to track that kind of detail. Although, QuickBooks does the accounting functionality fine. It's just if you wanted to track expiration codes, there might be some way of um, making it work for you. But there's nothing built in natively that would say, yes, it has that feature. Okay, so good questions. Thank you for that. Moving along. QuickBooks Desktop. So, and actually the desktop, if you would be almost hard pressed to find the desktop version or the enterprise version on their website, on the Intuit website, because if you were to go to intuit.com, you will see everything and anything to do with the online system. And they just to give you a tiny bit of history real quick, like QuickBooks has been in business a long time. Intuit has had a rock solid well-respected program known as QuickBooks Desktop that was in, a software that you would install on your PC, and you would it would meet all of your accounting needs. It was very easy to use, very powerful, and it was relatively inexpensive. I mean, you could easily buy a version of Desktop for about $199, and then you would own the software. And over time, QuickBooks kind of has moved away slowly from its development of the desktop application, has put all his eggs in the online basket, as many companies are doing, because the subscription model does have a lot of benefits in that you always get the latest, greatest version of the software. You don't have to worry about backing up your data because it's all there. You can access it from multiple devices. Whether you have an Apple or a PC or a phone or a tablet, as long as you have access to the internet, you can access your QuickBooks company, and it kind of negated the need to have to purchase different versions of QuickBooks for different devices. Plus, accountants and tax preparers kind of love it when everybody's on the same product, right? Because you'd have a preparer who used QuickBooks Desktop, but their client might use QuickBooks Mac, and they didn't always 100% understand how how the function would work and how to get to be able to review the material. And so there was always kind of that struggle, I think. So having everybody on one application really is helpful that way. Um, but the downside of having it on a desktop is that if the PC crashed for some reason or had a virus, you'd lose your software and lose all of your information unless it was backed up. And the online system really helps a lot of people use the system and not have to worry about all those things. So there are pros and cons to both of them, but desktop has long been respected and used. And when Intuit moved away from it, they really, and this is the opinion of the instructor, not of Intuit or anything, but they really did make people upset who are longtime loyal desktop users. So they didn't do away with it like right away. They've slowly been peeling away layers of the onion over time, and then eventually we expect that desktop may just disappear altogether. But I do talk about it because you should know what exists, know what it's out there, and some of you may even be using it. But these different desktop options actually, even now, as of July, are no longer allowing new subscriptions to be opened for those products. They will take care of their existing users, but they have already stopped selling new subscriptions. They still do sell Desktop Enterprise, which is basically the same thing as Desktop, except Enterprise is far more robust, and it's really intended for large companies who want to roll out 20, 30, 50, 100 different versions of QuickBooks across the company. They still offer that product, so it is more expensive, but and you still can buy that. But these other users for Desktop Pro, Premier, so forth, they have stopped allowing new subscriptions to be opened. And that was as of July 31st. So that's a recent change. And so you're kind of left again with Enterprise, and if you are an existing subscriber, then you're all set. So it's really setting up people to really embrace the online version. The price of, you can see that they went to subscription based also, kind of, it's more expensive than it used to be. Again, it used to be about $200. Now they run around $800 a year. It is still less expensive, or was until while they were selling it anyway, still less expensive than the online version. And really everyone kind of measured QuickBooks Online against desktop version because desktop was the original product and everyone loved it so much. And then for Mac users, $349 annually for a single user. There is a Mac version that is available as well. All three of those software products are different. So in my kind of final comment before we move on to something different is that if you are here and you learn about the QuickBooks Online, if you decide that you're interested in kind of checking out the desktop enterprise, you'll see it's completely different. How it works, the interface is different. The concepts underneath are the same, but they are different products. I'll pause. Any questions before we move on to the next topic? Okay. So, what we're going to do before we kind of jump into the material itself is to give everybody this link. I put it up on the screen. Let me copy and paste it. And put in the chat here. Gotta move my little pictures of everybody around so I can see it and into the chat. Okay, so you should have now the link in the chat, and that will easily allow you to access the Intuit test drive. So I'd like you to click it. One thing I will say is that for those of you who are already QuickBooks subscribers, if you click that link, it may ask you to log in to your own application. So if that happens, we don't want you to log in to your real application. Sometimes computer will do that. Try opening up with a different browser. So if you normally use Chrome, switch over to Edge and paste the link into Edge or Firefox or a different web browser. I see there's a comment in the chat. Let's see what we got here. Yes, took me to the application. Yes, it does that. One of the quirks of QuickBooks Test Drive. Nothing that you're doing wrong, nothing that we can do about it. It's just one of the things we have to deal with. So hopefully you all have a different web browser available and you can try using a different one and paste it in there. That should bypass, because it has to do with cookies, remembering who you are so you can access your company information quickly and easily next time you go into it. So it gets confused thinking that's what you want to do. Right? So if you use that alternate browser, yeah, it should work just fine. And so I would encourage you to click it and to open it, because we are going to talk about QuickBooks, and perhaps you could follow along, not only on my slides, but on the application itself. And we definitely are going to be experimenting a little bit tonight, so we don't want you to actually create transactions in your real company file. So this is getting started with QuickBooks. We're going to really talk about you know, an introduction of the system and how it works and how it looks. They do in order to access QuickBooks, of course, you have Test Drive, and you can use that as long as you would like. You should know that the Test Drive does not store your data. So for those of you who are thinking, oh, great, I won't bother to subscribe to QuickBooks, I'll just use this free test drive. That's not going to work. So every time you close the browser, everything that you do in that test drive session will be deleted, and next time you open it, it will start with another fresh copy. So just keep that in mind. So if we do something in class together tonight, if you should accidentally close the browser, you will lose the work that we've done. So it only remembers what you've done as long as the session is open. All right. And then otherwise, if you think you like QuickBooks and you want to give it a try, um, there are QuickBooks classes that will through various, like the Adult Ed office. I know close to me in Gardner, Maine, they and in Augusta, they have an Adult Ed class starting up in the fall. And you can take the class, and along with it comes a free trial subscription of QuickBooks Online. So it's a full working copy that you can actually use and access. And when it expires, you can simply sign up and pay, and you get to keep all the work that you've done. So that's another option if anyone's interested in that. But one thing I will say about the QuickBooks Online is that it's always changing all of the time. And in fact, my screen, sometimes I've had at sometimes when I've put my shared my screen and showing the QuickBooks test drive, some of the students have said, "Oh, well, your screen looks different than mine." And it very well could be, because the test drive screen is close to, but may not exactly mimic what is in production. So a full paid subscriber, and depending on the level that you have, will have sometimes different features, different options, and paid subscribers will have a different screen at times than test drive. And I think test drive is sometimes used to kind of beta test upcoming new design changes, just to see how they work and what people think of them. So you may not, um, just so you don't get confused, in case you see that, a screen in test drive looks different than your actual QuickBooks uh, subscription. Okay. So the online dashboard. So let's go in. I'm actually gonna jump over, share my screen. So this is the sample company, Test Drive, Craig's Design and Landscaping Services. All right. Let's talk about what we see on the screen. And actually, um, actually, the this test drive screen actually looks even slightly different than it did recently. So I know that they're constantly changing this a little, but the basic gist of it is all the same. And by the way, this is the advanced test drive. There's two versions of the test drive. I did not share the link for the basic test drive because most of you, I'm sure, and some of the things that we see are, I think, helpful to the workshop, is to actually see what capabilities the system has. So I like to use the full-fledged test drive here. So the left side of the screen is this gray bar, right? And that's called the navigation bar. And the navigation bar is divided up into various centers. So it gives you access to certain key areas in QuickBooks. So for example, let's look at sales. I'm going to take the mouse and hover over sales, and then a sub menu will appear off to the right. And you can see I have overview, all sales, invoices, customers, products, and services. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and click on overview, the first one. So that will bring me to the sales center. Okay, and it's basically all things to do with sales. So recording for this business, all of the things that I've sold, income that's coming into the business. Okay. And across the top of the screen, there are tabs. You'll see actually the same tabs across the screen that appeared in the menu on the left. So I have all sales, invoices, customers, products, and services, just like it says over here. Right? So they're the same. So I can quickly jump from section to section. So if I'm interested in seeing um, a list of all my customers, for example, you can see there's the customers tab. I can click on that and it will bring me, to the area that shows me a listing of all my customers. And then I have the ability to add customers or edit customers and so forth. Okay, so that an example of how the left navigation bar works, and that it brings me to these various centers. Okay, so that's sales center, and you can see on the left bar other types of centers such as expenses, and um, you do have payroll, so for employees. So it's centered, or kind of center centric, where everything is divided into these various centers. However, if you're interested in like creating a new transaction, then I will direct your attention to the top left of the navigation bar where it's got that oval that says new with a plus sign next to it. All right, so we're gonna click on new. So that will be the place where probably 99% of your transactions may start with using the new button, because it is a little faster than having to kind of navigate through this. Like if I wanted to create an invoice for a customer, if I were to do that under the sales menu, just as a demonstration, I could hover over sales, go down and select invoices, and it would bring me to invoices. Or if I was in any of these tabs, I'd have to go to the correct tab to go to invoices. But here I can just simply click new, and invoices is right there at the top. So it's kind of quick and easy to access, as it is with all of these basic functions that you would probably do on a regular basis. So you can see they're divided up into various columns. So I have a customers, customer functions, customer related functions like invoices, sales receipts, receiving payments, and things like that. Um, and then a vendor column, which deals with expenses and recording checks and purchases and things. And then team, which should be dealing with like timesheets and billable time, projects, and then other. So that new button is going to be used quite a bit. Right. And then the other menu I'll talk to you about here is the gear menu in the upper right hand corner. So you can see the little sprocket here in the far upper right, and I click on that, and that will bring you into the menu where you can control various settings and features of the software. So it's an important area, and we'll talk more about it perhaps a little bit later tonight. But you can see that you've got all kinds of settings and features regarding your company itself overall. I have a list menu, tools, and then like your profile, which would be all about your billing and subscription level with the software. So there are some things that may exist in more than one place. Like, for example, if I wanted to reconcile my bank account, you can see that under the gear menu for tools, reconcile is about halfway down the list. Okay, but the same feature also exists in other places. So if I were to click on the new menu under me see. Well, unless they move it, but they other under other they do have journal entries. No, so they sometimes these features are listed in other places, and I don't see reconcile is here. But there is reconcile in other places, probably under like transactions. Right, yeah. So transactions reconcile. So this is another way of accessing it. So it doesn't mean that it's any different whether you access it from the left navigation bar or the gear menu. It'll bring you to the same place. Okay, then we'll talk about just kind of the interface itself. So what you're looking at on the screen is the dashboard. So I'll go back up to home. I'll go to the left navigation bar under menu. I'm going to click on dashboards and I'm going to click home. And this is where you would arrive when you first open up QuickBooks. And it will bring you here. So the dashboard is meant to give you like a quick snapshot view of the company and everything that's going on. So it will show you your bank account balance as of the last time it connected, interfaced with your bank, your current profit and loss, whether you're in the plus or the minus. And I see we have a loss of $159 for July. So we'll have to talk to my team about that, see what's going on with my company. You see other things. There's expenses listed there, cash flow trends, so other types of information. Okay, and you can customize this layout differently if you want to play around with it. There are some different things you can do to kind of modify it. So it's meant though to give you kind of these quick like a quick overview. And when you hover over these different I can see now the test drive is getting a little finicky because it's frozen up a bit. But you can see that you can hover over these different things on the desktop and it will give you a mouse pointer where you can click down into more detail. So like I can see checking, it gives me a checking balance. I'm actually in the negative on my bank balance, it looks like, for whatever reason. But if I were to click on it, it can provide additional detail as to, why that number is displaying as such, where that number comes from. Or profit and loss. Like if I see income of 68.96, if I were to click on that, it would give me kind of a detailed listing of how that 68.96 arrived on the desktop. What was the calculation that made that number what it is. So it's all interactive and very easy to use. And QuickBooks, of course, is only going to be as accurate as the information you put into it. So that's the caveat with all of this, right? In order to get a really good picture and accurate picture of how your business is performing, you, of course, need to give it all of the information. So you need to make sure all of your sales information, your assets, your income information, your expenses, all of the things that affect your business are loaded into QuickBooks. And then you can get, an accurate depiction of how the company is doing. Another, which I'm sure a lot of you already know this, but kind of rule of accounting, generally accepted accounting principles, right, is that you keep all of your business activity separate from personal activity. So if you have a business, the business needs its own bank account that is dedicated to just the business, and only business transactions should be conducted in it. Many small businesses naturally are owned by individuals, sole proprietorships, and may operate a business kind of out of your personal checkbook that you pay all of your other personal bills, but that does not give you the ability to get an accurate reporting out of QuickBooks. You do need a dedicated bank account for business transactions that you can then sync with QuickBooks, or you can manually enter the information so that everything that occurs in that bank account and in QuickBooks are in sync, and you have a good report exactly what's happening. So again, it's all based off of what you put into it. So it's important to remember that. Let me see. Question: if we have the desktop version and we want to upgrade to online, can we move our data from the desktop to online? You absolutely can. I have had people do that. I've also had people ask to go the other way from online to desktop, but that does not work so easy because um, frankly, I don't know that Intuit really wants you to move the other direction. They really want everybody on the online version. So they make it easy for everybody to do that. I would always recommend to try to make that type of conversion at a time when it's the least disruptive, right? So if you are halfway through the year, like as of July 1st, that's a good time to make a change. Or probably ideally would be at the beginning of a tax year. If you follow a calendar tax year, fiscal year from January to December, January 1st would be an excellent time to make that kind of a move, because then it's a clean cut between a clean move, and you can prepare because there are things to do to prepare. And then perhaps some people even use both systems in parallel for a while just to make sure that everything looks okay before they just simply cut bait on the old one. But there is a tool that makes it easy. I have not personally used the tool, but it has been reported to me that it was, it was helpful to have it. Another thought too, and since the question came up about conversion, that's a good question. Um, if you have years and years of QuickBooks data in your desktop version of QuickBooks and you want to convert to QuickBooks Online, it's some consideration that you may be bringing in old information or information that's no longer active. So it's not necessarily a bad thing to like enter fresh information into the new system and take the extra time to do that. You can like export your customer list to Excel from desktop. You can export that information, and you can import information into QuickBooks Online using a CSV file from Excel. So you may be that you don't, you know, want all of the information in there. Maybe you go through and you parse out the list and you delete customers that don't exist anymore. You like clean up the information and then you bring in the data. So there's some different things you can do to take the opportunity if you're going to make the switch to make it as clean as possible. Just different things to think about. But it's a good question. If new to QuickBooks and would like to utilize now, can we import data from January 2024 to capture the full year? Let me reread that again. So if you're new to QuickBooks and we'd like to use it right now, so not wait, in other words, okay. Would you is it okay to start using it but go back and enter all the data in from January? I think that's what you mean, right? Yeah, it's certainly possible. I think it kind of all depends, right, on the number of transactions that have occurred and the level of effort it takes. That's kind of part of the decision making. So if you have 100 employees and your company is just humming along, that would be different than somebody who, is a sole proprietorship that has just a few transactions, in a week. It may be easy enough to just manually type the stuff in rather than, using the export tool. Um, So it's just a matter of looking at the volume, I think. It's certainly possible. And yes, I think if you asked Intuit, they'd say no time is too late to convert over to QuickBooks Online. Do it today. But I like to think of things from an accounting standpoint. What's going to be the cleanest and easiest for you and for your tax professionals? Like if, because that if it's in a year of transition when you're converting, right, they will have to literally, um, they'll have to figure out what information, how to make a complete picture for the year, right? Will you be running reports, a profit and loss statement for your old QuickBooks and for your new QuickBooks for some portion of the year in each one? So you add everything together to create like one report. Is that, if that might be how it works. Um, or it might be, like you say, you duplicate everything and bring everything from 2024 into the new system. So you just rely completely on the new system. That um, may be fairly easy. Then I would say go for it. That's um, probably the best answer. But we talk more detail if you have questions about your particular situation, right? So thank you for that. I appreciate the questions. So, okay. Any other questions about kind of the general overview of QuickBooks so far, the navigation bar, the gear menu, um, the new button? Does it all seem pretty straightforward, I hope? Just looking ahead here for a couple of things. Make sure I captured everything. One last thing. Let me jump back in here. Um, Along the desktop, the dashboard rather, where you have home and then you have something called planner. So depending on the version of QuickBooks you have, if you have a subscription to like the simple version, you probably won't have the planner. But if you click on the planner, um, that planner tool is for cash flow planning, and we will be talking about that in more detail next week. So if you've not signed up for that, why not, right? It's going to be another great time. So sign up and we can talk more about that. But I wanted to point out that planner tab is there, gives you access to the cash flow tools inside of QuickBooks. All right. Let me go back to my slide deck here. We're going to just step back a little bit from QuickBooks itself and go back to PowerPoint. So there are three main components of QuickBooks. This is, if there's anything that you walk away with from the workshop, I really would like everyone to feel really comfortable about this concept because it's really the foundation of how it works. These three main components. So you have forms, lists, and registers. So I'll explain why it's so important. So forms, examples of forms would be things like invoices or checks, right? And the reason why it's like a main component is because it's easy to use. Pretty much everybody kind of knows what an invoice and a check is. And it's where QuickBooks will allow you to fill in information to create a transaction. Okay, so again, the example of a form, and you can just watch my screen and you don't have to click on your own for this piece. But here, I'm going to go into the left navigation bar, click sales, and go into invoices. And I'm going to pull up a listing of invoices in QuickBooks. And I'm going to use this as an example. Okay, so again, invoices are an example of a form, one of the many forms that's in QuickBooks. And I think it's helpful when you open the form itself and see it, um, and see how you interact with it, that you get to understand the concept. So I've clicked on it. It's thinking about it. But while it's loading, so the invoice, and which um, will be evident to you. There it is. Has a variety of fields where it captures information. Okay, so in the top left, customer. All right, so we have to give QuickBooks the name of the customer that we're selling this to. I'll pick Amy's Bird Sanctuary as an example. Okay, we also have, and by doing that, it drops the customer's name into the invoice and their address and so forth. I have terms. Terms like how much time am I going to give this customer to pay? It's going to be 15 days, 30, 45. So you see net 30 is what I'll select. Okay. It's another thing I have to give for information. I'm going to scroll down a little bit and I'll see in the first line of the body of the invoice, I have products and services. So I have to provide QuickBooks with an item from my inventory. What am I selling the customer? So I'll click on product and services and you'll see I get a list. So this is my item list. Everything that I sell and all the stuff in this list, I had to program. I had to set this up, right? I had to name them, put the pricing in for them. So there's a little bit of setup involved when you use QuickBooks. Once it's set up, though, right, it's pretty easy because it's a matter of just using what's already there, and it eventually, after that first initial investment of time, it becomes a very real time saver. So I'll just select design, like design services. Okay, so far I've selected three different fields to create a transaction here, and I now have a $75 invoice so far. Okay, so that's an example of the first and the second component of these three main components working together: forms and lists. Lists are crucial parts of how QuickBooks operates. In fact, lists are so important that if you click on the gear menu, if you remember, upper right hand corner, I'll click on gear. It will show you. Actually, I guess I can't do it from here. Let me close out of this invoice, and that's okay. I've illustrated the point thus far. Now let me click on gear. So the gear menu has a column with the name list at the top. So lists are so important that they have its own area to manage them, right? Because there are lots of lists within QuickBooks. If you click on all lists, it will show me all of the various lists that I have within QuickBooks. My chart of accounts is a list. My recurring transaction list, products and services that I sell, the product categories I use, my payment methods, the terms that I offer, all of those are lists. So lists are very important part. So taking forms and pulling the different items out of each list and putting them onto the form is the basis for creating transactions, right? Those transactions are then saved, which brings us to the third, final, and last of the three main components, which is registers. All of the transactions that we create, all right, are saved within registers inside of QuickBooks. So we may, here, I'll click back, right? So I go back to the invoice list here, hopefully. All right, so a list of all my invoices. You'll see this one, it's the top one on my screen anyway, July 4th. Shara Barnett, it's $274.50. All right, so $274.50. That transaction is not saved here in my invoice list. It's actually saved in my register, my chart of accounts. So I'm going to go to the chart of accounts. So on the left menu, I'm going to slide down over under transactions, and I'm going to pick chart of accounts and open all of the registers behind the scenes inside of QuickBooks. And all of the transactions for accounts receivable, the ones that, in other words, customers that I have billed who have not yet paid me, right? Those are recorded in accounts receivable. So I see accounts receivable, and I'm going to go into that register. All right, and I'm going to look at the transactions in there. And as I scroll down through the list, and I say my customers in total owe me 5281.52. That's how much is unpaid owed to me by my customers. But as I scroll down this list, keep going, I see my Shara Barnett 274.50. So there's my transaction right there, invoice number 1012 in July 4th. So that transaction is stored here. So I've now completed like the mapping of the three parts that make up this transaction. Forms, I had an invoice, a list, so I pulled all the information from various lists, created a transaction, saved that transaction in my register, accounts receivable, and therefore I have the building block of transactions within the system. Okay, so that is how QuickBooks works. So every time you enter a check or a debit card transaction or enter a bank deposit or whatever it is you're entering into QuickBooks, it's going to be entered using a transaction. Oftentimes it's entered on a form. It can be entered directly into a register as another option. But all of the registers within QuickBooks will store those transactions and keep track of where money goes. That is why those are the three main components, and it's important that we get familiar with them, and because you'll be using the kind of in front of the curtain, if you will, in the auditorium in front of the curtain, you are creating transactions, you're creating invoices and sales receipts, and it's easy to do because you're filling in the forms. Behind the curtain, backstage, QuickBooks is saying, oh, okay, I need to post this transaction here in this account, and it requires a part of the transaction to go to this account, and it does all of the heavy lifting for you, does the record keeping pieces. And that's why QuickBooks is so easy to use. And that's why lots of people love it, because you don't have to be an accountant or a bookkeeper by trade to get started with it. Okay, so hopefully that explains it well. But if there's questions, please let me know. And that concept by itself will hopefully, take you a long way in this. All right, so back to my PowerPoint deck here. Now, transactions, as I mentioned, recorded, entered in forms such as invoices, bills, and checks. QuickBooks handles debits and credits. So we've not going to get into detail about debits and credits. There are in the expanded version of this workshop, like the 4-night version, we do talk about debits and credits and a little bit more about the accounting process. But we are going to talk about the sales process. So that's the next piece of this. We have about a half hour left. And how do we record sales in QuickBooks, transactions where money is coming into the business? So that would include tracking company sales, setting up customers, recording sales receipts, recording invoices and payments from customers. All right. So tracking company sales, we have a few different choices. One thing is that I know there are some businesses that use third-party products and services for your businesses, like Square, for example. Like might have a credit card processing through Square. You may have a point of sale system through Square, and Square will have some functionality. It will record what you've sold. It will give you, a tracking of your inventory. So we're setting that stuff aside because that is something that can integrate with QuickBooks. You can use Square and integrate it in the system using there is an integration tool where you can connect Square and QuickBooks, but use also if you don't have Square, or if you have like a traditional mechanical cash register, you can use that, to kind of record your day's sales transactions and then just enter summary information into QuickBooks manually through the course of like a sales receipt. And that is an option for tracking sales, but we're not gonna really talk about those because they're outside of QuickBooks. But I will focus on sales receipts and invoices because those are within the functionality of QuickBooks. A sales receipt, something like if you went to a department store and you made a purchase and the cash register spits out a paper receipt, your sales receipt. So you can, within QuickBooks, if you create a sales receipt, QuickBooks assumes that you have been paid at the time of sale, that you are not billing the customer, that you will get immediate payment and that transaction is concluded. So sales receipts are for those types of instances, and also for these other types of transactions like Square. It's a way of tracking Square information and entering it into QuickBooks. You also have invoices, which are customers in which we are selling on credit. So customers will buy something, product or service. We then send them an invoice, which they will pay at a later time. So both of those types of transactions will track, detailed information about the sale, and you can do both within QuickBooks very, very easily. So before we sell something to a customer, though, the first step is that we do need to add a customer. Some people have asked whether that's necessary or not. Like if I operate a small craft business and I go to a farmer's market every week or a craft show every week, do I track all of my customers, their name, phone numbers? Do I really care about that? Some businesses do. Like if I'm a contractor and I am going to be working on somebody's home, most often I do want to know who they are, where they live, so I can keep track of that information, and perhaps I'll be doing business with them multiple times, but not so much in a like a cash basis kind of sale in a farmer's market, right? Those, you get many, many customers who are all anonymous who come in. But the point being that QuickBooks, when you enter in a sales receipt or an invoice in QuickBooks, QuickBooks needs to know the name of the customer. So it asks that. It's a required field. Some people who don't really care will pick a generic customer and use that generic customer over and over and over again. So the benefit of that is you don't have to enter in all the information. The downside is you have no idea who your customers are, and it doesn't give you very much tracking information, and it's not helpful in the future. But that's a business decision for each person to make on their own. But adding customers is an important part of the process, and we're going to practice adding a customer together. So we're going to go back over to QuickBooks. So this would be the time where you get to get your hands dirty a little bit, and we're going to do this together, adding a customer, just so you can get a sense of what it's like. So going back over to QuickBooks, I'm just waiting for the screen to come up. And there it goes. Okay. So if you're following along with me, which I hope you are, we're going to go to the left navigation bar. All right. And we're going to hover over sales on the left bar, and we're going to, in the submenu that appears, slide down to customers. Now we'll open up the customer center. Okay, and then we're going to click the new customer button in the upper right-hand corner, this green button that says new customer. And let's open up a brand new record. All right, so for this customer, let's say we're entering somebody by the name of Bob Mason. Okay, so under the first name field, I'll simply type in Bob. I won't worry about last name, and I'll type in Mason. Okay. And if I wanted to record like additional information such as address and so forth, I could add that, but we don't need to worry about that right now. So anyway, I got Bob Mason. I'm going to go down to the bottom of the record. I'll see the button which says save in the lower right hand corner. I'm going to click that. And it's that easy. I now have this new customer, Bob Mason, which I can now use to record transactions. So I have the customer's information here. If I want to go back to the customer list and just see where Bob Mason appears amongst all the other customers, I can use the left, this little left link where it says customers left arrow here. I'm going to click that and bring me back to the list. All right, so then I can see the fourth one from the top, it looks like, is Bob Mason. And I didn't enter an address or anything else, so it's kind of blank except the name. Okay, so there's Bob Mason. So easy as that. That's how we create a customer. We're now going to use that name to create a sales transaction and record the sale. So let me see if we should yeah, let's do a sales receipt. Okay. So let me go back here. Up on the left-hand navigation bar at the very top, if you remember that new button with a plus sign, we're going to click new. And out of all these transactions, we're going to look under the customer column, which is the one on the far left, and we're going to slide down about halfway and select sales receipt. And it is thinking about it, and it will open up in just a moment. Okay. So for the customer, let's choose Bob Mason. Now, if I did not enter Bob Mason in advance, I could simply type his name in and add it, like at this point in time. But since we already demonstrated how it was easy to add a customer, we'll just simply use it. And we'll type in MAS, and you'll see Bob Mason comes up in the list. So I'll select Bob Mason, and we'll enter it in. Different things I can do to add to this transaction, like email. I can note the sales receipt date. So we'll use today's date, but that's easy to change if we need to. Tags is used for those of you who are not living under a rock like I am. Tags are like social media's way of allowing you to identify things so they come up in a search, right? So like if I'm on Facebook and I put hashtag 2024 taxes, for example, or 2024 QuickBooks in a post somewhere, anybody who does a search on that term will identify and possibly pull up my entry because I've now made it searchable. So tags are very much the same way within QuickBooks. If I want to create something that I can then search later, I can add a tag to find this. So let's say that I'm going to put in design, like I'm selling design services to Bob Mason. So I might put in my tag, design for new um, project. Okay, so at any point in time later, if I do a search on the word design, this transaction hopefully will come up and be identified. Okay, so payment method. How is this is a sales receipt. So the customer is paying me at the time of sale. How are they going to pay me? They're going to write me a check, use a credit card. So I'm going to put in check. Reference number is for the check number that they gave me. So I'll put a check number in. All right, we're going to leave undeposited funds just the way it is under this field that says deposit to. And then under products and services, I'll select design. And there it is, $75 sales receipt. Okay. And I'll simply do save and close and record the sales receipt. So that's how I record a sale. So under Bob Mason, you'll see, of course, it's going to refresh itself here. Stand by. Um, okay, under Bob Mason, you can see there's no open balance, zero, because I didn't bill the customer. They paid at the time of sale. But if I click on Bob Mason's name in the list, I can open up his record. Um, Actually, I think it's still thinking about it here. Let me click on his name. There we go. I will see a listing of all the transaction with Bob Mason, which will include here this new sales receipt that I just created. The $75 transaction is listed there. So just as simple as that, I have recorded a sale, right? And that $75 is being captured automatically in my QuickBooks record keeping. Like, so if I were go to my chart of accounts under transactions and choose chart of accounts. Remember those three main components of QuickBooks: forms, lists, and registers. So I've used my sales receipt form. I've used items from the various lists to create a transaction that was stored now in a register. So sales transaction, the money went into an account called undeposited funds. So if I look at this account, which is the total of all the money I have collected from customers that have not yet been brought to the bank. The total, I have $2,100 I'm sitting on in this account, of which $75 is included, which is the 75 I collected from Bob Mason. And you can see it's right there. There's the transaction. So QuickBooks did all the heavy lifting behind the scenes, posted the transaction to the correct account, and recorded it. All I had to do was to fill in the sales receipt to record that sale to Mr. Mason. All right. So that's an example of recording sales within QuickBooks. In the interest of time, we're going to move on to expenses now to give you examples of that. But any questions, though, I want to pause and see any questions about recording sales in QuickBooks. Does that seem straightforward? Feel free to unmute if you want and just speak right up. If anybody has a question, we'll give you a second to find it. I did see somebody put something in the chat. Question um, from Scott and Michelle, which is a great question. Once a transaction is saved, can it be edited or corrected easily? Yes, it absolutely can. In fact, I see the $75 transaction. If I were to click on it, since I happen to be in there, right? And I want to click on edit, it will bring up that transaction. And there, I can make changes. Like if I wanted to add, like, oh, I charged too little for that transaction. It should have been 175. I could modify that. Or if I want to add additional things I forgot to add to the transaction, I can do that and then save those changes. There are caveats, though, of course, because it is so easy to make changes within QuickBooks, doesn't mean it's a good idea to always change things in QuickBooks, because it is, when you're modifying your record keeping, it brings into question the credibility of it, right? So there are times when, if you have a transaction that's been saved and then you have since reconciled all of your accounts, printed off all of your reports, and imagine it's the end of the year, right? It's after December 31st, and you've sent all your reports in to the tax preparer. This is how much I made this year. And then you realize that you needed to change an invoice or a sales receipt that you have already generated and part of that record keeping, right? It may not be a good idea to simply edit the transaction. It may be a better choice to actually go in and to do a correcting entry so that the original transaction is undisturbed, but you still correct the information by creating an additional transaction, depending on where it is in the accounting cycle. And so it is not like an automatic that you should always make changes. But in general, yes, it is very easy to make changes, to make edits, and to go back into transactions, make corrections, because as I said earlier, QuickBooks, the information that we get out of QuickBooks is only as accurate as what we put into it. So it's good that we can easily kind of manipulate it when we need to. So, and the follow-up question, once it's edited, how does it show up in the register? It will record the changes and reflect the latest version of what it is that you've saved. I will point out that within QuickBooks, there is also an audit log. So if you have multiple people using QuickBooks and somebody is doing something that they shouldn't be, like modifying the information, QuickBooks will record every key entry, who did it, the time it was done, the date, all of that behind the scenes. So it has that full logging capability. So you can backtrack and find when things were changed and who did that. If you have a single user, you're the only one who's subscribing and the only one who's using QuickBooks, that feature may not have been of much use, but becomes particularly helpful when you have multiple users and you really want to know who's doing what. So because it is so easy to make changes, you want to just give careful consideration as to who has access to your QuickBooks and what level of security that you give them, right? So, another question, similar regarding cost of goods, products. If product cost is edited, does it retro back, or is the change from that date forward? Well, cost of goods sold. If you are a very simple example, you buy a widget for $1 and you buy a widget for $2 and then you sell it to the customer, how will QuickBooks calculate your profit on selling it, right? So it's uses a cost average system, and so it's not a particularly robust system in tracking cost of goods sold item for item and the history of cost of goods sold. So that kind of detailed inventory analysis is not capable within QuickBooks Online. Some people have opted to use actually like some of the older versions of QuickBooks, the Desktop Enterprise. Premiere does have an inventory assemblies feature that allows you to better track cost of goods sold. I'm getting into the weeds a little bit too much on that, maybe, but anyway, it's just, I think, easier to just say whatever Like if you have made an edit on a transaction, whatever it is, um, you cannot easily revert back to what it was in the past. Like it is always moving forward, you know. It's not like um, QuickBooks makes little backup copies or snapshot copies unless my understanding is if you use the advanced version of QuickBooks, which is the $200 a month product, that you can actually turn back your QuickBooks company file to an earlier date and time. Like that capability exists. But it's expensive. Not everybody has the advanced version of QuickBooks and to do that. But otherwise, it's not easy to revert like to go through the history and see all of the changes were made without digging into like the audit log and you're saying, oh, somebody went in and put a zero on this transaction at this date and time. Will it tell you what it was before? I do not know if it will, to be honest. I'm thinking it does not capture that. Uh, it would take some homework because you'd be able to see the original transaction as it was entered at some point earlier. But how easy is it to find that? I really don't know the answer to that question. Um, so anyway, all right. So hopefully that's helpful. We got about 4 minutes. Can I show you expenses in 4 minutes? Absolutely, I can. So go to the left navigation bar and we'll go under the expenses menu items. It says expenses. We're going to hover over it and we're going to slide down to in the submenu to the second item where it says expenses. Okay, so expenses. There are all kinds of ways to enter expenses. I will show you one. It's kind of the common way, but if you if you want to enter in a new expense transaction, you can do it from here. Like many areas in QuickBooks, you can do things more than one way. And this is, you can click new transaction. And you can see as an example, the type of expense transactions that have already been recorded. A lot of these are credit cards. Like, here's a $34 credit card purchase under the automobile expense category. And so you can kind of scroll through and see all kinds of different ones, right? But if you want to enter a new one, you can either click this new transaction button, or as we have learned already, we use the new button in the upper left-hand corner of the screen on the navigation bar. You click the plus sign, new, and under the vendors category, the second column, you'll see the top item in the second column says expense. So I'll click that. And it will bring me to the same place as if I was entering in a new expense transaction right on the screen. So it's kind of it's a general thing to say I'm just entering a new expense. So I need to tell QuickBooks like what I spent my money on, um, what type of expense, categorize it into a category, an expense category, and then explain where the money came from. Did I use my credit card? Did I pay cash? Did I write a check? And who I spent that money with. So all that information gets captured in this form. So who did you pay? Let's say that we're going to pay Bob's Burger Joint, and we took a client out to lunch, and we used our debit card. So I have actually payment account checking, and you can see um, different types of accounts. So I'll leave checking in there. That's the most appropriate one. Let's say it was today. The payment method, I used a debit card, let's say. So you can see that I've got cash, check, a bunch of options, and there is even the ability to add a new one. So if I wanted to add one that said debit, like Camden National Bank debit card, I could add that. Here, for ease of and being cognizant of the time, I'll just use cash as the payment method. And um, and then reference number, maybe I'll leave it blank. I don't know if I need one, but I can tag, we'll say, client lunch with Bob Mason. That's interesting. I'm Bob's Burger Joint, and I'm taking Bob Mason out to Bob's Burger Joint. Okay. So then, what is it that I spent this money on? Like what category? So I have to pick an expense category. So I want something that probably says meals and expenses, something along those lines. I can type in the word meal, and it may come up in the list. Oh, there it is, meals and entertainment. Or I can add new accounts if I need to do that. But since there's one in there, description, lunch with Bob Mason. How much was it? Let's say it was $30. And I can even tag it to say this, I need to add this to my customer's account, and I'm going to charge Bob Mason for lunch, and he's going to pay me back to be kind of that way about it. I can click on the billable checkbox, and I can select customer Bob Mason and add him, which means that next time I go to bill Bob Mason, it's going to prompt me, hey, don't forget, you have this $30 expense. Would you like to bill it? So it's a pretty cool feature. All right. So I'm going to click Save and Close. And I've recorded the expense transaction. And so it's added to my list of expenses. I have forms and lists working together to create transactions. And if you remember, of course, QuickBooks will do all of the heavy lifting. So to kind of end this topics, and we'll pause here for questions at the end because it's 1 minute over my time. So I'm kind of on milk and cookies time, as they say. I'm going to go down to my chart of accounts and just show you, right, that $30 transaction is being recorded. So because I said it was cash, I'm not going to see it in my checking account, so it's not going to post there, but it will post under meals and entertainment. So if I scroll down in my chart of all my different accounts, I'll go down near the bottom where the expenses are, and hopefully I can find this pretty quick, meals and entertainment. Right there, meals and entertainment. And I'll look at the quick report that looks at the transaction, and I will see the $30 expense that I've spent for this lunch. It's going to refresh itself. See, it's a little laggy. My son would say that he's a gamer, so it's kind of laggy. So it happens in the test drive. But anyway, there's Bob's Burger Joint, cash 7/14/24, meals and entertainment, and there is my actually this transactions. I don't know. I don't see the $30 one in there. So perhaps. Oh, I also have to make sure that I'm looking at the correct time period in there. This is May 16th of 2024. So I need to like change this. Let me show all dates. Refresh the view. Make sure that I get everything in there. Yeah, and I don't see it. But in the interest of time, I won't track it down, but I'm sure it's here somewhere. But anyway, the record keeping and the detailed like heavy lifting is all being done by QuickBooks behind the scenes. And that's the kind of the point of it. It's very easy to enter transactions within QuickBooks. In the overview, this little bit of time that we've spent together, hopefully, gives you a little sense of how QuickBooks works, the how easy it is to use, and kind of what it's all about. So I want to stop and just ask questions. I see in the chat, do I have information on the 4-night class? So we do not have a 4-night class scheduled yet, but if you are interested, I see you've put it in the chat. I will make a note of it. And you could also, I would encourage you to also send in any sort of comments about tonight's workshop and what you think to SCORE itself, who organized tonight's session, because that feedback is helpful. So if they get it from both through me and then from directly from our students, I think that would be a great way of encouraging them to open that course up, because we have run those 4 night classes. Typically, try to split it up so you've got maybe 2 nights week 1, 2 nights week 2, maybe a one Monday, Wednesday kind of thing from like 6 to 8:30 each time. And it allows us to get into more detail and to really learn in greater depth about some of the functions and features in QuickBooks, and analyze transactions and really talk about them. We even talk about some of the basics of accounting and the foundations of accounting. So I see Sarah has a question. So please unmute if you want. Jump right in.
Yeah, just a follow-up question. If we wanted to submit a request to them to have that more detailed class, does it have a name? Can we be clear what we're asking for?
Yeah. Well, the Dan Reed is the training supervisor, and he kind of oversees. And I did you get a confirmation email when you signed up for this? Yeah. Is there a link to contact SCORE in the email?
Maybe there is definitely a form on their website for like request a class for Maine or whatever, request a workshop.
All
I've
right.
seen too. So
So
either way.
so just to make this, because I'm out of the loop on that a little bit as to how I'm not on that side of it. I am not a SCORE mentor myself, and I don't work directly for SCORE, but I'll partner with them. So they kind of handle that side of it. But to make it easy, this is what I will do, since I don't want to cause confusion. Please, anyone who's interested, put it in the chat and say, I would be interested. And I will capture all that and I will give them a list and say, I have these 6 students who are interested in for example, or maybe there's 19 of you that are interested, because that would be everybody. That'd be great. I think they would run it if I said I have 19 people ready to sign up for a 4 night class. But anyway, and I'll make sure to, and the only reason why we stopped running it really was because I think people get very busy, and depending on the time of year, it's always hard to carve out time for something like this. But we had some low attendance numbers on several of them, so I think we were just trying like short, quick 90-minute sessions, because those are easier to digest and easier to get people to sign up for those things. So that's kind of why we went to this format. Maybe we need to have one of those 4 night classes again. There's enough interest. Let's do it. That's what I would go ahead and try to present that to them and see if they would be good with that. So thank you very much for that. What other questions can I answer for you before we depart for the night? I hope this has been helpful. Question?
Are you teaching the class next week as well?
I am.
Okay.
Yes. And I did see a question in that. Look at all the chats coming in. I love it. Yeah, there was a quick question. Is there a way to have recurring yeah, you can have recurring billings. You can set those up to have automate recurring transactions, both for expense transactions and for income transactions for sales, which is great. So if you have like a property management company and you want to automatically generate an invoice for all of your rent customers at the first of the month, you could do that. So it's easy to do that kind of stuff. Let me see what else. Make sure I got everybody and answered everybody's questions. Are there any of those features that are not on the Simple Start package? Well, I need to and I always would be straight with you. I do not know moment to moment what features are on each level of the subscription. But if there are certain features that are definitely important to you, like maybe recurring billing might be one, um, do a Google search because you will. I think you'd want to be able to find that out before you purchase it. Um, as I explained, most students end up at the plus level for a variety of reasons because it doesn't have a feature they really want. Some may even go to advanced just because um, it's that's the only way to get something that they need. So I apologize, I don't have it right off the top, a list of them, but let me see. Let me see. I think I got everyone's questions. If I didn't, please poke me again here and send another one. But I think I got all of everybody's. And I know that this was a whirlwind, a lot of information I tossed at you, but I really hope it was helpful and everybody got something out of it tonight. Vinny, you had a question. Did this get answered? Which question was that, Vinny? Go ahead and type it in. Oh, uh, about the expiration codes. Is that the one? If that's so, I did answer just to if that's what you're referring to, just to say that the inventory capabilities of QuickBooks are just kind of average. So there are no specific things about expiration dates. There's no functions um, on board. You may be able to manipulate it somehow to track certain things, but nothing native that I can think of that specifically does. A lot of people will use third party inventory tracking features. Like I am not a real expert user at Square, but some people love Square and think that Square is a better way of tracking inventory, and then they just integrate Square with QuickBooks so that they use both systems together. Like Square manages all the sales, QuickBooks simply gets the summary sale information from Square and records it and tracks the accounting side of it. And a lot of people like that combination. So, all right. Okay. Well, I think I've got everybody. So, thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate it. Once again, we will send out, probably go out tomorrow, I imagine, the PowerPoint slide deck for everybody and a link to rewatch the recording. It's available for like a week or two, so you can watch it again if you want to repeat anything. But we encourage you to sign up for other offerings. Next week is the cash flow planning session. We won't be talking about um, in terms of like an introduction course on QuickBooks itself. It'll really just kind of focus in on cash flow planning and how that works and how QuickBooks tools can make it easy to plan for cash flow. So it's kind of like a part two tonight. So we won't go into the very basic stuff like we did tonight, but I think it'd be great to attend if you are still interested, and you haven't signed up, please do. And we'd love to see you next week. So thank you all very much. Have a great evening, and we'll see you soon. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.